I need to take my sister to the hospital. Please lend me some money. My 8-year-old grandson walked an hour through the heavy snow to our house, carrying his 2-year-old sister, who had a fever, on his back. Both of them looked so worn out. Where are their parents? As I was about to let my freezing grandchildren into the house, my husband yelled, "There's no way we're lending you money." Seeing my grandson frightened by my husband, I tried to calm him down, saying, "You don't have to be so harsh." But he ignored me and did something even more shocking. My name is Sarah Inukai, and I am a 60-year-old homemaker. I live peacefully with my 65-year-old husband, Mike. We have a son named Steve, who got married and moved out 10 years ago. He has 2 children, an 8-year-old son, Charles, and a 2-year-old daughter, Nancy, who are the apple of our eye. We adore them and always look forward to their visits. However, 3 months ago, things started to change with Steve. He was always a bit careless, even when he lived with us, often letting laundry pile up. His wife, too, seemed to struggle with household chores. When I visited their home soon after their marriage, the place was always messy with clothes strewn about, and it was impossible to walk without stepping on something. I wondered if they would manage after having children. 10 years later, when Steve and his family visited, both kids seemed happy and healthy. Especially Charles, who seemed quite responsible for his age, which reassured me. But then, Steve came over with the kids. Charles is a big help around the house. He hardly causes any trouble. He said, "Oh really? I'm glad he didn't take after his father." "What do you mean by that?" I smiled warmly at Steve, who was being a bit playful. But even though Charles is very responsible, he's still just 8 years old. Despite Charles being so mature, I worried about the burden on him due to his parents' inability to manage the house. "Grandma, can I have some pocket money?" he asked. "Of course, you've been such a good boy helping out at home." I took out a $10 bill, but Steve quickly snatched my wallet. "Steve, what are you doing?" I asked. "Oh, come on, you should be more generous with your first grandchild. $10 isn't enough." He took out a $100 bill without asking. This happened several times until my husband, Mike, finally lost his temper and scolded Steve. But this backfired. Mike, with his stern and stubborn nature, frightened the grandchildren after he yelled at Steve. The kids didn't want to visit anymore. The last time I saw them was 3 months ago. Since then, only Steve comes to visit occasionally, always asking for money for the kids. "Can't you let me see my grandchildren?" I asked. "If you miss them so much, why don't you use video calls?" "Oh, but you're not good with that stuff, are you?" Steve laughed mockingly. Unfortunately, he was right. My husband and I couldn't even use the internet. "Anyway, where's the money? Where's your wallet?" he asked, rummaging through the room for cash for the kids. I sighed in exasperation. "The wallet is in the safe. I made sure you can't take money out without permission." "What? Seriously? Fine, whatever," Steve said and left abruptly. Realizing he had only been visiting for money made me feel conflicted. He was wearing an expensive watch and a gold necklace. Are they living within their means? Since his marriage, Steve had developed an extravagant lifestyle. Although he worked for a company that dealt with children's products and earned a good salary, his spending seemed excessive. After that, Steve stopped visiting altogether. 3 months passed, and one snowy night, I heard someone ring the doorbell. "Hello, Charles, what happened?" My grandson stood at the door, carrying his baby sister on his back. "Nancy has a fever. I need to take her to the hospital. Please lend me some money." Both of them looked so thin and worn out. I was shocked to think Charles had walked through the snow carrying his sister. Why is this happening? What are Steve and his wife doing? Not understanding the situation, I just wanted to get my freezing grandchildren inside, but my husband yelled, "No way we're lending you money." Charles flinched in fear. My grandson was completely frightened by my husband's outburst. "It's not the time for that, is it?" I tried to calm my husband. He suddenly ran to the kids and hugged them tightly. Both Charles and I were too surprised to speak. "No, if you need money, we will give it to you, and I want you to rely on us." "Are you not angry?" "I'm furious with our son, but I can't abandon our grandchildren like this." My husband cried while holding our grandchildren. Despite his stern demeanor, he loved them deeply. We immediately took Nancy to the hospital. The doctor assured us her condition wasn't life-threatening, and her fever soon went down. We returned home that night, relieved. As Charles watched his sister sleep peacefully, we talked to him. What he told us was shocking. "Mom and Dad leave me to take care of the house and Nancy. I do everything, from washing dishes to cleaning the bathroom." "Do you know where they go?" "No, but Mom comes back with expensive bags, and Dad smells like delicious food." From what my grandson said, it seemed his mom was splurging on brand-name bags. It also appeared that she and Steve were going out to eat without the kids. They probably weren't even cooking proper meals for their children. "Is that why you're so thin?" My husband gently stroked Charles's arm. "Dad said we're his money tree." We were stunned. He records us looking thin and posts the videos online. "What? Is that true?" "Yeah, and he said that they were raising money from people who felt sorry for us through something called crowdfunding." "What's this crowdfunding thing?" Crowdfunding is a way to collect money from a large number of people over the internet. In other words, Steve and his wife spent 3 months making their kids look pitiful, essentially scamming people who felt sorry for them. Realizing this, it made sense why Steve had kept the kids away from us for 3 months. My husband and I were shaking with anger and shock. What on earth are they thinking? "Call Steve right now. Get him back here." I called my son on my phone, but I couldn't reach him. "That's strange. Maybe he's not home." "Hey, do you know where your parents are?" "Hawaii. They told me to take care of the house while they're gone." "What?" Steve and his wife had left the kids at home to go on a vacation abroad. But Charles didn't know any more details. "We might find something if we go to their house." My husband drove us and the grandkids to Steve's house. Using the key Charles had, we entered. The place was still a mess, with barely any room to walk. We carefully navigated through the clutter. "Hey, I found this next to the phone," my husband shouted, holding a piece of paper. It had dates, times, and a string of letters and numbers. Could this be? I checked the string on my phone, and, sure enough, it was an airline and flight number. The dates and times matched their flight to Hawaii and the return flight. They were due back the next day at 4 p.m. Determined to confront them, we stayed at their house. We cooked a proper meal for the grandkids. Charles ate with tears in his eyes, saying, "It's delicious, it's delicious," while Nancy also ate happily. Seeing this, my husband and I couldn't help but cry too. After feeding and bathing the kids, I contacted someone important on my phone. "Steve and his wife won't get away with this. Just wait and see." The next day at 4 p.m., we were at the airport. The arrivals area was full of people joyfully reuniting. My husband and I stood there with stern expressions, waiting. Soon, Steve and his wife emerged, wearing leis and looking thrilled from their Hawaiian vacation. "Welcome back. Seems like you had a fun trip." "What the? Why are you two here?" Seeing us, Steve and his wife tried to turn back. But my husband grabbed their shoulders, preventing them from leaving. "We need to have a talk." "Let go of me." Steve struggled while his wife screamed, "Security! Help!" Initially planning to discuss this privately, we had no choice but to confront them then and there. "Steve, We heard from Charles. You've been treating the grandkids horribly, haven't you? What, Charles? You snitched to Grandma. Shut up. Charles flinched as his father lunged at him. But my husband grabbed Steve by the collar and yanked him back, causing him to choke out a surprised sound. Steve's wife started crying. Please, Dad, Mom, stop this. Onlookers began to gather, curious about the commotion. I took a deep breath and shouted from the bottom of my lungs. Leaving the kids to do all the chores while you two go on a trip to Hawaii. Why didn't you take them with you? Well, that's... Steve stuttered, sweating profusely and looking everywhere but at me. If you won't answer, I will. Help these poor children who are struggling to eat. Please donate on this site. Mom, stop it. This is the crowdfunding page you created, right? I shoved my phone in front of his face, displaying the site Steve and his wife made. It prominently featured photos of a frail Charles and Nancy. There was even a video of Charles saying, "I'm hungry, please donate." Steve looked utterly shocked. How did? Mom, you don't even use the internet. True, but I can ask friends who do. Damn it. So that's how you found out? Yes, and this page has been widely shared. My friends recognized Charles and even donated. Last night, after putting the kids to bed, I contacted a friend my age who is very skilled with the internet. Last night, after putting the kids to bed, I contacted a friend my age who is very skilled with the internet. Last night, after putting the kids to bed, I contacted a friend my age who is very skilled with the internet. You didn't want to let the kids go because they make you money, but taking them on vacation would reveal your lie, so you went alone. Yeah, that's right. Steve admitted, glaring. Then, suddenly, he laughed. But you don't know how the internet works, Mom. I can delete the site and all the photos and videos with one click. How could you be so rotten? Too bad for you. I'll erase everything later. Steve sneered as his wife cried out, "Violence isn't the answer." I sighed, feeling a mix of pity and frustration. Listen, Steve, if you had admitted and shown remorse, I might have reconsidered. What can you do? You think I'm unprepared. My friend has already saved screenshots and videos of everything. Steve's face turned pale. When my husband let go, Steve collapsed to the floor, crawling to my feet. Please, Mom, let's talk calmly. I am calm. What are you going to do with those images and videos? No, don't tell me. Please don't. You know what this means for me. Steve's wife snapped. I told you this would happen, as he started banging his head on the floor in a desperate plea. Steve grabbed her head, forcing her to apologize. You too, apologize. It's too late. Look around you. When Steve and his wife cautiously lifted their heads, their eyes widened in shock. They were surrounded by onlookers, all pointing their smartphones at them. Stop! Don't film us, Steve shouted, frantically covering his face with his hands. But it was too late. We're cutting ties with you. We'll take custody of Charles and Nancy. You're not fit to be parents. With a resolute attitude, I left the airport with my grandchildren. Soon, the videos taken by the onlookers spread online. Friends who had seen Steve's crowdfunding site posted the truth while protecting the children's privacy, exposing Steve's lies and causing a major scandal. News of their scam reached Steve's workplace, a company dealing with children's products, and he was immediately fired. With their faces exposed in the viral videos, there was nowhere for Steve and his wife to turn. Meanwhile, we filed a lawsuit to permanently terminate their parental rights. The court granted our request, and we happily took custody of our grandchildren. Since the incident, the kids have grown very attached to my husband, and he dotes on them. Our home is now filled with the lively sounds of happy children, and I am happier than ever.